Hello everyone, welcome to another year of PFL football. This is our draft selection show meeting to where we determine the draft order for this year's PFL draft. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for some football. It's kind of been a long summer. Before we determine the draft order, I wanted to go over some changes I'm making to the league this year. I think it'll make it interesting and keep things fresh. Who knows, this may bomb and I have to switch things back next year, but I think it's worth a try. So before we do the draft, let's look at some of those changes for this upcoming season. Okay, the first change that we're going to have is dealing with a 17 weeks, the NFL season. That 17th week, more and more often teams are resting their players, and it just doesn't seem fair that the best teams that are in the playoffs don't get to play their players that got them to the championship. So I'm going to reduce that to where we're playing our PFL championship game on week 16, which means I have to cut the regular season by one game. So instead of a 14-week regular season, we're going to go to a 13-week regular season plus 3 weeks of playoffs. To do that, to drop that last week of the season, we can't. It just doesn't seem possible to do a 3 divisions of 4 teams, so I'm switching it to 2 divisions of 6 teams. That helps me adjust our regular season to the 13 weeks, and this still allows us for every team to play every other team in the league at least one time. Okay, the thing I struggled the most with dropping the last week of the season was that I wanted everybody to be able to play everybody. And to make that happen, that's why I'm changing to the 2 conferences. Each team will play every other team in the league at least once, but they'll play 2 random teams twice to make up the 13-week schedule. And since we've got 2 conferences of 6, you're only going to play each team in your conference one time each, and then you're going to play the teams outside of your conference one time each, but then 2 of those teams twice. I know that's confusing, but that's how we'll make up the 13 weeks. It's not something you have to be concerned with. I just wanted to talk it through. As you can see, I've come up with a schedule to do this where I've got, as far as your conference opponents go, you'll play 2 of them in the first half of the season, and then you'll play the other 3 in the second half of the season. So throughout the season, you're going to have conference games, or games that matter more than your other games, but still you want to win every game because the best records end up getting into the playoffs. And so I've got them highlighted here: National Conference and American Conference, so you can just kind of look that over if you wish to. To determine the National and American Conferences, it's going to be based on your draft order number that we draw here shortly to make up. So if you're drafting in the first round, if you have an odd number, then that will put you in the National Conference, and the teams that have an even number draft in the first round will make up the American Conference. For the playoffs, we're still going to have 8 teams. And they're going to be 3 weeks of playoffs as we did before. The 2 conference champions and the 2 conference runner-ups will automatically qualify for the playoffs. Beyond that, the next 4 best records are going to make up the wildcard teams, regardless of whatever conferences they're in. The 2 conference champions will earn the first and second seeds, and then the remaining 6 teams will be seeded according to their record. Because there's a few new tiebreaker rules, and I kind of added a new one to it. But as always, the best overall record is the number 1 tiebreaker. A conference champion would be a second tiebreaker. The conference runner-up is next, and then head-to-head, and then that's based on, you can look at the rules. It just depends on if both teams have the same number of games and all that kind of stuff. Then conference record, And then the new thing I've added to this year, if we get down to the 6th tiebreaker, we're going to look at the power ranking that's on the website before we go to most points scored, head-to-head most points scored, and so on. Normally we don't get that far. We usually get just down to the head-to-head thing or conference record, but if we go any further, that's going to be our tiebreakers. And then I'm changing up, this is probably our biggest changes, and it's going to deal with player freezes. Starting this year, we're going to limit the number of times that you can freeze a player to 3 times in a row. So this year is going to be freeze number 1 if you end up freezing a player, and then after 3 years you have to return them back to the player pool. So really that means you're going to get, you know, when you draft a player and then freeze them 3 times, you have them for at least 4 years, or have the option to have them for 4 years. Anyway, I thought that just kind of is something new, twist I want to add. And then to try to help out those teams that finished at the bottom, the 4 teams that don't make the playoffs will get to draft a college player with the option to freeze that player in the next draft by forfeiting their 3rd round pick. Now that may be a little confusing, but we're going to ask those 4 teams to have their little supplemental draft of those players shortly after the college national championship game and after our season has concluded, where last place team will get a pick first, and then the 11th place team will get 2nd, 10th, 3rd, and 9th, 4th. Now, you know, what they're doing here is they're having to kind of do some study and understand and take a shot at who these good players might be for the next season. You know, because this comes out, they'll be drafted long before mock drafts are coming up and all that, before the NFL has their draft. So I just thought that would be an interesting thing to throw in there, to give those teams that don't make the playoffs an opportunity to have a little shot at things for the following year. You can still only freeze 1 player a year, so whether it's a player from your roster where you lose your 1st round pick, or whether it's these last 4 teams that get a draft a college player and forfeiting their 3rd round pick, either way you still going to freeze 1. This year's draft is again scheduled for August 24th, Saturday, August 24th, and it'll start at 11 a.m. So now it's time to determine the draft order to see what players are being frozen. Okay, and now we're ready to determine our draft order. We're not gonna show all the process because we have all 12 teams back from the last 2 years. So this is the 3rd year in a row we'll have the same 12 teams. So y'all seen how we do this draft determination. Emily's going to pick the number, and then that number is associated with the team number on the table here. So again, if you are an even numbered team or draft order, then you are in the American Conference, and if it's an odd numbered team, that's the National Conference. But more importantly, we're determining the draft order of the 1st round. So we're going to start with the person that will pick last in the 1st round. So for number 12, that person will be, we'll go ahead and start. It's number 8, and number 8. Last will be body count. Pick number 11. Team number 12. Team number 12 is Crapshoot. Team 2. Team number 2 is In Harm's Way. With the 10th pick, it's In Harm's Way. With the 9th pick, Team 11. Team number 11 with the 9th pick is Not Purple. Not Purple is team or selection number 9. The 8th pick in the first round goes to Team 6. Number 6 is the Double D's. The Double D's with pick number 8. With the 7th pick in the first round, Team number 4. Team 4 is Boomin'. Boomin' with the 7th pick. With the 6th pick in the first round, Team number 10. Team 10 is Instigator. Instigator is team number 6. Team number 5 is team number 5. And that is the War Turtles. Our defending champion is pick number 5. With the 4th pick,
Picked out of the bowl. Number 3.
team number 3 is the Minesweepers. Minesweepers is team number 3. Or I'm sorry, that's number 4. That was the 4th pick. We're down to 3 teams left. Team number 1. Team 1. BJ Facials, the 3rd pick. Down to the last 2. I'm not liking this because I'm freezing a player. And I'm one of the last 2. Team number 9. Team number 9. Great. It's Pain Train. And that means number 7 is the first pick of the draft, and that pick goes to the Rejects. The Rejects. The draft order for this year will be with pick number 1 is the Rejects, followed by Pain Train, BJ Facials, Minesweepers, War Turtles, Instigator, Boomin', Double D's, Not Purple, In Harm's Way, Crapshoot, and Body Count. That will conclude our draft selection show special. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on August 24th, beginning 11 o'clock at the draft.
You stay classy, San Diego.